Hello, and welcome to, maybe this is a new series. This might be the Aubrey tour series.
Oh, yes.
Maybe I do this I'm going on a little tour soon. And I've begun it because as I don't know if you can tell, but I'm in Boca Raton, Florida. You can hear that really intense bird over there
A lot of birds.
celebrating our presence. I've actually never been to Florida, and I'm here visiting Marissa for the weekend, and I'm really, really happy to be here. And as you can imagine, the thing that is our main topic of conversation in being here is everything that happened this last week. I mean, this last 6 weeks, this last 2 years, this last 6 years, really. But we'll say this last week.
We're gonna focus it to this last week.
We're gonna narrow it down.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about this last week, where Rachel and Nicole's verdict in their trial was guilty, and then the next day it was just the next day.
Monday was the verdict.
Time gets very weird in a trial.
Yep.
Monday was the verdict,
Yep.
and Tuesday they were remanded into custody. There's a 90-day thing that people go through before their sentencing, and normally when people have been out on bail for 2 years and have shown up to everything on time and are, you know, it's a nonviolent crime and all of that kind of thing, they would normally stay out on bail during that 90 days. But in like a really unusual, really intense decision, the judge decided to remand them. So this has been our main topic of conversation and all of the different things related to this decision by the jury and this whole entire experience. So one aspect to know is Marissa and I were both ready and willing to be witnesses for the defense. And there's a whole, lengthy list of people ready and willing to be witnesses for the defense that didn't get to be because the judge essentially blocked the defense from being able to put people up on the stand. And so we had a lot to say. we were ready to tell the truth about the things and we didn't get to. And we're finding ways to get that out anyway, because it's really important that make it out into the world as well, one way or another. And so we wanted to make this video and talk a little bit about it. And we could honestly do like, I don't know, a 10-part, 20-part series on this entire thing. And maybe we will. Yeah. But we're going to do a however long today and just kind of talk about some of the biggest themes that are on our minds. And so I think I'd love to just ask you how you're feeling about it. Like, how was it for you coming to New York, not testifying, and then leaving, hearing the verdict, the remanding, all of it? Like, how are you doing and how are you feeling about it?
Wow. Okay. Starting dig. So being in New York was great, which again is a weird thing to say given the circumstances, but it genuinely felt good to see a lot of people, after I found out I wasn't going to be a witness and I could engage with people. So like just being in New York and being surrounded by community again felt very good for me after taking, I guess at this point it's been like I have no concept of time, 3 years away. 3 years since I left community living lifestyle.
Yeah. Getting close to that.
Yeah. So that part felt great. The circumstances under which I was there, less than ideal, that being said, I felt very clear on the role I wanted to play in being a witness for the defense, especially due to the very close, long-standing relationship I have with Rachel, in a work capacity and in a personal life capacity. So I felt great about being there. I felt great about the way I could contribute and the way I had chosen to show up. Then, the news came in. I did prep with Rachel's lawyers, and the first prep went great. And the questions were simple. It was literally just questions about my experience, things I observed, and the way I felt about Rachel. And I was like, this is like the easiest thing for me to show up for. Then, like, either later that day or the next day, they were like, so we may not call you. We don't really have a lot of room in what we can do at your testimony. And I still wasn't understanding. I was like, it doesn't really make sense. And they were like, well, we'll talk more about it once we have a little more info. They came back around, asked me to do another version of prep where they were going to try a different style of questions. And in that prep, it felt so different from the first time prep. Like they were so limited in what they could ask me, and I was even more limited in what I could say. And so I was like, I'm not understanding. Am I not allowed to talk about my experience? And they were like, no. And I was like, it just, like, make that make sense to me. Like, in this country that I genuinely love, like, there is meant to be due process, and both sides are meant to do whatever they can to bring full picture, about a situation. Like in the most simple value neutral terms, that's how I would describe it. And the defense window to do that was this big. Suddenly, it went from like this big to this big. And I could just tell on the style of the way they were asking me questions, like they just couldn't ask me about specific things that were genuinely important for context of just like, so that blew my mind. And I felt really frustrated. And then I could only imagine how they felt trying to do defense for a pretty major case with life altering circumstances for two women. Even if they weren't two women I cared about, that would be appalling to me. Even if they were strangers and I just read it in the news, I'd be like, this isn't the country I love. Like, I would just be so confused. I would think we were talking about somewhere else. So that was incredibly frustrating.
So somewhere where you're guilty till proven innocent.
Yeah.
Instead of innocent.
Yeah.
Proven guilty.
Exactly. Like I just, it wasn't adding up, and I felt so frustrated, not only in that I couldn't contribute in the way I had hoped, but frustrated that the jury was not going to get a full picture. They were going, whatever decision they were going to make at that point was going to be based on one side of a case being presented. So that was appalling. So they didn't call me.
Yeah.
They ended up not calling me. They ended up not calling anyone except for one witness the day before I was meant to go, which then led them to their conclusion that they were not going to have the space to present an actual defense in the way that they had prepared and in a way that is constitutional and just. So that is that section. I mean, the verdict is devastating, though I gotta say, not shocking given what I just said in part A.
Mm.
Like, the defense didn't really get to present a defense. They got to do a witness and a closing argument at best. So yeah, not surprising given what the jury had to work with. 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks of one side of a story in a case, followed by 2 days of no story or case being able to be presented. So not shocking given the circumstances, but devastating nonetheless. The remanding, that part threw me off the most because
me too.
For, I guess, 5 years now, I've worked with the carceral system, prisons and jails in several cities throughout California, and will also start doing the same here in Florida through my grad school internship. And I have literally worked on cases and worked with clients with incredibly physically violent criminal records who have not been remanded. I'm talking like,
oh wow,
yeah, like great bodily injury, GBIs,
and like the crime they got convicted for was it violent? That's insane.
Yeah, and they weren't remanded. People that I would possibly consider a danger or threat to community.
Or maybe a flight risk or something.
Oh, they were all flight risk. Most of them actually would immediately disappear from their housing and just try to be on the run for a little bit and eventually get, stopped by police and be taken back in for breaking their agreements of the program they entered. But my main point why I'm even making this comparison is how that isn't considered a potential danger or risk to society. And this is. And so that alone, for me, with my years of experience, was like, again, it just doesn't make sense. It does not add up. That math does not math for me.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, including ones that aren't so close to this thing, I think if I asked the average stranger right now and presented a little bit of context and facts about what's happening and asked their opinion, they would say, that sounds insane. Because it kind of is. Like it actually is a bit insane. So the remanding felt personal.
It really did.
Like genuinely
Yeah.
personal. Like
Yeah.
less about the two women being convicted, in my opinion, wrongly convicted. Because again, that's my opinion. Not about the two women being convicted, and really not even about the prosecution witnesses. It literally felt personal, having nothing to do with any of the people actually directly involved. And that, again, is very problematic.
Very concerning.
It's the whole thing is so concerning.
Yeah.
And this is probably like my last piece of how I feel. I feel concerned about the direction we're going as a society. I feel concerned about what this will mean for how I want to show up as a woman in a world that is wanting me to behave a certain way, uh, be easy in a certain way that is just not me. Like with or without OneTaste. Like I said, I left community 3 years ago. I'm still me. I'm still like a bold, passionate woman. And right now, with the way things are going, using this case as like an example, that's not looking good for bold, passionate women. Like it's just not looking good.
Girl, tell me. This was what my last video was about.
Affiliation aside, if I was completely never affiliated, I would still feel nervous and concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, my last video, if you guys didn't see it, was about basically I said like there's a reason why when witch hunts were done back in the day, actual witch burnings, because really it was 9 million women. They couldn't have all been practicing witchcraft. You know what I'm saying? Like many of them maybe were just into herbs, like
herbal remedies,
or just were mouthing off, right? And it was convenient for somebody to get rid of them. But there's a reason why witch burnings were so public and so violent, was to scare all the other women into compliance.
How are you feeling?
Don't do that. I mean, this is why we're here talking, not silent.
Yeah. Yeah.
How am I feeling? I'll briefly say how I'm feeling about it, but I actually wanted to go more into something you said too, which was you said you were talking about being part of OneTaste and leaving OneTaste, leaving community. You're still you, and so one of the things that the prosecution's witnesses said was some version of like when like by the time I left OneTaste, I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't, it was my ground. It was what I was used to. I didn't know how to like find my ground for a long time. Like I had become dependent on it, that kind of thing. And therefore it's evil, I guess, is the implication. I mean, they didn't say that part necessarily, but that was kind of the implication. And we were talking about that earlier today because that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, because we were saying like, well, I'll let you say it. Like that is not, OneTaste doesn't hold the monopoly on experiences that you can go through that you are then ungrounded and not sure of yourself when you leave. And there are many, in fact, yes, life experiences that you can go through that leave you feeling that way. And we made a whole we came up with a whole list in about 30 seconds earlier, because that's actually a normal experience in life. That's actually something that everyone experiences in life periodically, like cyclically.
Yeah. So right now I'm in graduate school to become a marriage and family therapist, and I'm considered a marriage and family therapist MFT intern until I can get licensed in a couple of years when I finish all my hours. So that's the context of everything else I'm about to say. So for what those prosecution witnesses have said, that part you just shared, I actually get that. Like I had a similar experience with my choice to leave community. I did not have much of a plan in place. I did not have basically it felt groundless. It was like I made a choice to leave after having spent a decade setting my life up a very certain specific way that was working for me. And then when I felt it was time for something different, I transitioned out. And that was hard. It was a hard experience. So that part I actually have the deepest empathy and compassion for it because I've lived it. And it was hard and kind of stressful. And like there was a period where I was like, I don't think I was ever like, who am I? Because I kind of came into this world with a pretty strong sense of self. But while having like learned a lot about myself over time, of course, but I did have the question of who am I without this community around me, without like having all that support and structure and backing. I did have to kind of refigure out who am I outside of that. So that, again, my point is I can relate and deeply empathize. And where I defer from many of the prosecution witnesses is I decided to take a different approach to figuring that out. I wasn't really interested in blaming anyone or demonizing my experience. I was like, my experience was beautiful. When it felt done for me, it felt done. The transition was hard. And now I get to just kind of recreate things from scratch. And there was no like blame to be had, like was everything about my experience in community perfect? No. Is anything everywhere perfect ever? No. So from that viewpoint, I think when you leave any sort of life that you're used to or it just naturally changes, you are met with that challenge. And then there really are two pretty clear distinct paths of make everything you just went through wrong or use everything you just went through to create your next chapter. And I chose path B, we'll call it, rather than path A. Path A, I could see the appeal because then you don't have to hold very much responsibility. But it's like that wouldn't work for me. So I had to like take my space from community, digest, find new resonant ways to be connected and still have my friendships just outside of living in community. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And then this other thing, in school, I've been learning a lot about just like the human mind, development. And so there's something called the Erickson psychosocial stages of development. And it's stages all of us go through. No one is exempt. Community isn't really like outlined as a particular stage, at least not in the way we've experienced it and lived it, and not in the way we're talking about. But like the stage of when you are a teen or young adult moving out of your parents' home, when two people get married, when a married couple or not married couple for that matter start a family, when you are a mother and you're a new mother, that's its whole own stage of adjustment. When you're no longer a new mother and your kids leave the nest and you're an empty nester, that's a whole stage. Going through divorce, for those that happens to, that's a whole stage. Like the psychosocial stages cover all of these various ways where no one is exempt from major life transitions time to time. And that's not even including the ones that are totally unexpected, like getting incredibly sick, having an accident that changes the way you live your daily life. Like there are so many opportunities for these huge transitions. And part of it is we all have the choice of how we show up inside of those. And that's something that people forget. Like you have the choice for how you deal with any kind of transitions, whether they're more positive ones or more difficult, challenging, negative ones, like whatever you want to call it. That agency in how you rise to that occasion doesn't change. And it's on you, it's on the individual. And so again, OneTaste does not have the monopoly on a big life change that is literally built into like many theories about therapy, psychology. And every time I learn about one, because of my own experience, I do kind of filter it through the lens of my time living in community and my time with OneTaste. And yeah, I mean, I feel like it would serve many people well to remember that life transitions are literally a part of being alive.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You asked me how I felt about everything. I feel like I was saying to somebody the other day, every morning I sort of wake up with like a fresh little helping of outrage and, and other emotions, you know, in their grief, just other whatever. Probably there's quite a few things in my little helping every morning, and then throughout the day, I get to put that into various projects, conversations, the Eros platform calls that I do, or creative endeavors, right? And so through the day, I feel like that outrage gets moved into things, and then I get to just kind of feel this streamlined sense of utilizing the power that's available from all of this. You know, like the power, almost like the electrical power that's available from all of this. And I laughingly was thinking like power, electricity, motivation, where they come from and how they're generated is neutral. So even when it's something like this that where it sucks ass, it's still usable. This is a technical term, and but it's usable.
Yes,
you know, and there's so much of it available right now. There's just so much. And so that's how I feel about it, is kind of determined to use it all towards things, and not get like to feel my feelings, you know, and like digest and like process everything, but not get buried underneath the wave of just like, oh God, or like frozen, you know, because like Marissa was saying, the implications of this case are far reaching. There was a lot of themes in this case that touch on to a place where people begin to lose their rights. You know, there was a lot around the First Amendment. There was a lot around freedom of belief and having your beliefs persecuted or being persecuted for your beliefs, while calling it something else. There's a lot of stuff around the framing of women in this case, and creating the storyline around women in general, that they're unable to be trusted to have their own agency and make consenting decisions, but they're allowed to later revoke, you know, their own consent, and can't be trusted to like have their own agency. And that really creates a path for women ultimately losing rights, because we're basically communicating like, I couldn't possibly be held accountable for my own choices. What do you mean? And so then if you are a person who says those kinds of things, ultimately you'll get treated like a child, and have less rights. And so if we're saying that like as a gender, that's not good. That freaks me out.
Yeah, I don't feel good about that at all. I don't want to be a part of that.
That kind of stuff
to make my own choices.
That's a slippery slope. Like it goes fast. That kind of thing can go really fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really important to just pour all of the feelings into things. Yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything else about the far-reaching implication.
Yeah.
For women, for really like rights as an American. I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Good question. What you said is honestly very close to how I feel. I just personally don't want to live in a society where my choices or my level of consent, intelligence, consciousness about my ability to make choices is questioned or doubted. I genuinely feel like that's actually everything the original waves of the feminist movement fought to change.
Yeah.
So the fact that we have ended up back there in a really strange way is it's not great.
It's a regression being called a progression.
Yes.
Which also freaks me out.
Yeah, no, that's not the direction I want to be going personally. Yeah. And then on the other hand, you know, and I had said this to you earlier in the weekend while we were hanging out, I've come to learn that a lot of things are cyclical. Like kind of one of the lenses in which I view and understand the world is a cyclical nature, where things do kind of generally come back around. I'm trying to think of like a specific example of that, but like other than the one we're talking about. I do not have a specific example, but I have come to realize that like just like nature and seasons, things work in stages and there is a certain cyclical nature to them. And that's fine. I vibe with that. I'm cool with that.
When you said that was when I had hope again.
Yes.
Because I was a little,
Yes.
It's easy to go dark in these dark times.
She was like, so is this it?
Yeah.
Like, is this just what we're doing now? And I was like, no.
She was like, it might be cyclical. And I was like, tell me more.
Yeah. I was like, I can't say this is it. Like, I was like, this is definitely where we're at right now. This is the part of the current reality we're living in. And again, like I just said, things have a cyclical nature, like nature itself. And that is great. And so I think we're in one of those with whatever you want to call it, feminism, the women's movement. There's so many different angles we can talk about it from, depending on your background and how you want to talk about it. But I would say if we are coming back around to that, I do not want to take the route of we are not capable of making our own choices and standing by them. That does not feel like a route I personally need to take. If it's a route we need to take collectively, so be it. And by the looks of things right now, it might be. But me personally, as an individual, I don't want to go that route. I don't think there's any cheese down that hole. And so I'm gonna stay out of it, but we might have to go in it anyway. I mean, and if that is the case, again, like, is what it is.
I mean, I'm hoping that this verdict and this entire experience is, a wake up call to women who know, like women who really have done the work to make their way from a consciousness that genuinely experience life as like happening to you, and there's always something to blame outside, and not like standing up, not finding your spine and your footing and standing up inside yourself and being like, okay, I'm gonna actually like hold the weight of my power. Like women who have made it to actually holding the weight of their power, I'm hoping this is a wake up call and it doesn't have to look any type of way for each woman. Like
I was just gonna say there are plenty of those women who exist outside of OneTaste.
Oh,
who've
yeah.
never heard about OneTaste. Like this.
Yes.
I do think it's like an initiation that every woman comes across at different stages of her life.
Absolutely.
In big and small ways.
Yeah.
And yes, those women exist and we are everywhere. And
we know. And so I'm hoping it's like, it's like, can we light up? Can we tip it? Can we send it back the other direction? Or do we have to go into in Buddhism to be called like taking birth or something? Do we have to go through a Kali Yuga within the Kali Yuga, like that we're already in? I mean, I'm kind of I think you are too. Like, I can't even, it's more than being an optimist. Like there's something, it's like we hold the light for something no matter what. We hold the possibility for something no matter what. And you, to me, always, I mean, when I look at you and I have these conversations with you, I feel fortified in my light, and like to think that you feel fortified in yours. Yeah. And that to me, and then I'm like, that's kind of all it takes.
Yeah.
Is those conversations between women who have done that work to cross over in that way. And then I really do believe it's possible,
Yeah. In my language, I would call it union, I guess. Like, can we, and again, it's not that different than what you just said. Can we come together and use one another to touch more people? And for each person we touch in a variety of ways, it might just be like something I post and another woman is like, wow, I've been thinking about the same thing and never heard anyone put words to it or talk about it out loud. Like there are so many ways to spread that light and that feeling. And so it's like if we use one another and we have this unionized way of spreading that as far as possible, then yes, I do think we can tip it.
I love that. Union.
Optimist is not the right word.
Right? It's I don't know what to say.
I was thinking about, like, what would I call that? I think I just call it faith. Like, it's like a deep faith that really does carry me through times like this. Like, when things just feel like, what is happening? Like, in my sitting meditation, in my journaling, writing, just in any creative or reflective practices I do, I kind of come back to this faith of knowing that it is possible, even if I don't know how to get there. Just holding the faith of it is possible. And I know it's possible because I do it for myself and I've watched other women do it. So I know at an experiential level it's possible. It's just a matter of how to continue spreading it and moving that wave outward. That part I don't always have an answer to. Maybe this video. Maybe it'll be one small way, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. These things aren't small, you know, like they are and they aren't, right? Every moment that any one of us women make a choice in our life towards power and away from where we want to collapse or so into like victim consciousness or abdicate responsibility for our power or whatever, every time we do the hard thing instead of the easy, comfortable thing in those spots, we have a rippling effect out to everyone that we're connected to. So true.
It's real. It's like it happens all the time.
And speaking about these things right now after a witch burning in which you are then you're supposed to be scared after that to talk, to do anything, to not comply and get back in the color and the lines, you know. So then that especially to me has like resounding impact. Any women out there who are speaking to this these deeper things will have a huge impact because we didn't allow the witch burning to make us silent and quiet.
And I think, oh, Jesus, the berry dropped out of a tree. It scared me.
It's like a war zone over here.
Yeah,
it's just so you're a
lot of nature, super beautiful.
Be moved on by a bird at any second. There's giant lizards.
We're running a lot of risk in the Jurassic Park of Florida. We really are. Those women that you're referring to, the ones that don't use this as a reason to stay silent, stay inside the lines, revert to or stick to the status quo, those are the women we were just talking about. Like the ones who own the responsibility or take accountability and understand the depth and extent of their power. Because those are the same women. Those two descriptions are the same women. The ones who don't use something like this verdict or just the way this whole trial has been handled, honestly. The women who don't use that as a reason to collapse, withdraw, or hide. Those are the same women who know their power and want to not only spread it, but help remind other women that same power lives in them innately. It's like those are all the same women.
Right?
Yeah. Cuz
a network.
Yeah, cuz I don't think you can I don't think you can do that if you haven't taken that initiation for yourself. Then I don't think you have the internal resilience to push through something like this and be like, I'm not going to let this scare me into contorting myself. Like, we've done that. That's not going to work.
We've done that.
We've done that.
Really done that.
Like, really, we've done that. We've all done that. And at some point, you're like, oh, that also doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't feel any happier or fulfilled having done that. So I'm going to try something else. That's kind of like, I mean, that's how it was for me, at least, where I was like, oh, let's try this other thing. It looks hard, but, oh, stuff's right. So, again, one of the many things I've been learning in my marriage and family therapy coursework that is just like meshes so well with a lot of the teachings I absorbed in my time at OneTaste and Nicole's teachings and Eros And he talks about this concept of post-traumatic growth, where basically your system goes through a stressful situation, and not only does it bounce back, it expands as a result of that stressful situation. So where resilience is the bounce back, like something stressful or challenging happens, you get knocked down a little bit, but you get back up. That's resilience. Again, beautiful thing. The step beyond that is something stressful happens, you get knocked back, you get knocked down, you get back up, and your system then expands and your capacity is even bigger to deal with the many challenges that life is not going to stop throwing at you. So like, like
stop.
I'm sorry, my life didn't like get easier when I left community. I wasn't like, oh, that was the problem. Like, no, challenges continue to happen. But my time in community has taught me how to meet them, and the things I'm learning in school have taught me how to continue learning, growing, and expanding through them. And so I just wanted to put that in there because I think there is an opportunity here for anti-fragility to literally have anyone involved with this case or touched by it to not just bounce back from this really devastating outcome, just to put it simply, but to actually expand through it. And I think that's the opportunity on the table.
I love that. Yeah. It was the opportunity missed by some and still is available.
It is. It genuinely is. It's always available. It's just a matter of if we are ready and willing to show up for it.
I love that. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll wrap us up for today, is just like when it can be scary to continue to not be silent, to not comply, to not just kind of get back in the lines, to not think, oh, wow, like if this can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. So I better be obedient. Because it's true. If it can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. And the fear, don't bow to the fear. And the one thing that really, really helps with that is connecting in with other powerful women. Had some women's group calls recently. I've had this time spent with Marissa, on a day-to-day basis. I make a point to really connect in with other women, either one-on-one or in groups. And as soon as I it's like nobody even has to say anything and I feel better. I'm like, oh, maybe I can do this. It's like this feeling like everything becomes possible again. And so if you are out there and you feel passionately about this and you don't want to be, silenced or fearful and you want to talk about it in whatever way it's right in your world, connect in with other powerful women to fortify and get that resilience and it'll give you what you need to be able to do that. Well, this was amazing. It's like a podcast now or something.
That's the vibe.
Yeah. So, okay. Signing off for now. We love you guys and goodbye.
Bye.